Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of the semester. Can you believe it? We're in week 4 already. This week, we're going to take a look at Chapter 3, Traditional Basis for Pay. Now, there are two ways companies can pay their employees. First, by longevity or seniority. Depending on when they started, they get a raise every year, and they pay them throughout, a 2% raise, a 3% raise, whatever it is, depending on how long that person is with the company. So those who have been with the company will certainly earn more than those who have not been with the company very long. So that's one way. Another way is merit pay or pay for performance, that it has does not take into consideration how long you've been with the company, but rather your performance. And so this chapter will look at those two different ways of paying your employees and then the advantages and disadvantages of both. So like every other chapter, we have a chapter quiz, but this week we have something a little bit different. Let's go ahead and take a look. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the course schedule. This is what always keeps me organized. Believe it or not, I probably use this as much as you use this. I come in and I take a look to see what classes, what they're doing each week, because it's sometimes hard for me to balance it all as well. I have 6 classes right now, so I use these cheat sheets very often. So this week, it looks like you have a chapter 3 quiz. Again, you should be very familiar with the quiz format, and then your first mini project. Let's go ahead and take a look at that mini project. You can find that in 2 areas, either the lessons under chapter 3, and you scroll down. Once you open the lesson folder for chapter 3, you'll scroll down, you see the quiz, and then you'll see the link to the mini project. You can find that there, or if you go into the lessons and you scroll all the way down, there is a folder for all the mini projects together. So depending on how you want to navigate there, that's up to you. So there are 3 mini projects. The first one is due this Sunday, 9/12. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and created the directions in a Word file for you because they are a little bit lengthy. I didn't want to overwhelm you in Blackboard by writing them all out in here. When you came in, I didn't want to overwhelm you with all of the information. So really, I just kind of gave you a little bit of, why it's important. We're going to look at exempt or non-exempt jobs from chapter 2. So again, this happens to be chapter 3, but the project is dealing with chapter 2. And the reason why I chose that this week instead of last week was because I wanted to give you some time to process exempt versus non-exempt. Sometimes that's a hard concept, and FLSA is such a comprehensive piece of legislation. I wanted to give you a little bit of more time to process it all. And it's also where a lot of companies get into trouble. They classify their employees wrong. They either classify them all as salary or exempt from overtime, when legally they shouldn't do that. And that's when they can get in trouble. Or they go ahead and pay everyone hourly when they could have actually paid some of them a salary wage. I'm going to go ahead and open up the directions for you and briefly go through those. So this first mini project is really, there's 2 parts to it. Let's go ahead and take a look. So the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, is covered in chapter 2. It's really a complex piece of legislation. It addresses a lot of different things. One of those things is overtime. And so for this mini project, I want you to go ahead and focus really just on the overtime portion of the act. So the directions are laid out for you. There's 5 different steps here, and then the scenario, and then a summary. So let's go ahead and go through the directions. So first of all, you're to carefully review the scenario presented below. Here's the scenario below. So for each job in the scenario, you are to determine whether they are exempt from overtime, meaning their salary, or they're not exempt from overtime, meaning they are hourly. So here are the 6 different positions. You have business development manager, administrative assistant, manufacturing manager, a salesperson, assembly technician, and an engineer. So that first part of this project is just write out the position and then exempt or non-exempt, really simple. Now, the second part of this project is to then take on the role of a compensation manager and write a letter to the company president, giving them a brief summary of the FLSA law. In addition, you're to explain which employees are exempt from overtime and which ones are not. And then the ones that are exempt, you are to explain to the president why you chose this. So I actually gave you a little heads up here on page 36 of the text. You can go ahead and determine what you believe meets the requirements, and then outline that. And that's that critical thinking piece. So let's go ahead and summarize what you're to do. Part 1, list the position and then exempt or non-exempt. It's pretty simple. That's straightforward. That's worth 25 points. Underneath that, or on a separate page or somewhere else, you're going to go ahead and write a letter. It doesn't have to be a formal letter. You don't have to have the header of the letter or anything. You can just kind of do a, dear Mrs. or Mr. President, whoever that is, and then write a brief letter. You don't have to have all the official letter header part things. If you know what I'm talking about, great. But if not, that's okay too. All right, so in this letter to the president, you are to first, 1, write a brief summary of overtime law. 2, which positions should be paid overtime and which ones should not, basically from the information above. And then 3, for those who are exempt, why are they exempt? And that's probably the most important piece right there. It's really important that employers understand why they should pay someone a salary versus not a salary, because you can get into a lot of trouble if you are paying someone a salary and technically by law, they should be able to get overtime. Please reach out if you have any questions. All right, thanks so much. Have a great week, everyone.